Hello and welcome to the Modern Mainframe Videocast, where we talk about transforming your mainframe applications with DevOps. I'm joined with my friends Tony Anter, who's the BMC DevOps architect, and also by Jakes Olivier from Nedbank, who is a DevOps coach. Thank you for joining me today. Just recently, we finished a survey with Forrester where they found that 80% of the respondents said that in order to modernize the mainframe applications, they needed to get the proper tools into the proper hands within their organization. What are your thoughts in regard to that survey result?
I think it's dead on. I mean, you have a platform, you have application teams that haven't modernized the way they've done things since the 90s. And now they're looking at it and they're saying there's no reason for that. We need, if we're going to move to that next level and revitalize the platform, and the platform is plenty modern today, revitalize application development on the platform, they're going to need that tooling. They're going to need that those capabilities that the distributed guys have been working on and implementing for years now. And that in order to play catch up, they're going to have to get those onto the scene.
And so, Jakes, if we're going to get the proper tools into the proper hands for mainframe application development and modernization, how do we get started with that?
Well, it's important to understand what the developers need, what their pain points are, and you pretty much want to look for something that's going to address all of those and maybe even bring them a little bit more.
What are the proper tools that should be considered?
Well, you definitely want proper source control, you want proper editors, you want to be able to automate your builds, deployments, and in other words, create nice, simple processes with lots of automation.
Well, you just said automation, so how important is automation to modernizing the mainframe developer experience?
Very important. That's where we pretty much identified the majority of our savings. Save the developers a lot of time, and it also improves quality. You remove finger problems.
Automate everything. That's my mantra. Automate everything.
Yeah. Well, you know, the survey also found that half of the respondents said that to be able to modernize, they needed to find a way to automate repetitive tasks so that their developers could better innovate.
Right.
So what's your response to that?
I think it's dead on. I mean, I think the survey really captured what the reality of the situation on the ground is. That you need to get developers back to doing what they are best at: innovating, creating awesome code, thinking outside the box, solving problems. Get them thinking about that and not worrying about how am I going to get my changes onto the next level? How am I going to promote my code? Those are table stakes. Those are things that the system itself should handle. That's why you get back to automate everything. Make everything an automated task, and then developers can start shining and doing what they do best.
So Jakes, how does this resonate with you, the automation of repetitive tasks? How important was that in your organization?
One of the things that we did for the developer community was to remove the need for documentation from a change control perspective completely. And you could really see what that meant to them. That's the sort of life-draining work that they do not want to do.
If I have to do something more than twice, then to me it needs to be automated. That was always my mantra when I was writing code and when I was doing things. I mean, I write code today, but when I was an engineer, when I was doing engineering work day to day, if I had to do something more than twice, the same thing had to be automated. I had to create a script for it. And that's the mantra we need to get back to.
You know, one of the most interesting results from this survey that I found was that organizations who had modernized the mainframe developer experience, they were able to increase velocity by an average of 28%. And they were even able to reduce development costs by an average of 18%. That's pretty significant finding. What are your thoughts about that?
So what we saw, if we took a simple piece of work, we measured what it used to take developers to get it into prod. So it's pretty much just the build process, promoting it through the process, the change management, all of that. We used to take about 5 hours to do that. Now we're down to 18 minutes.
What was your experience at the credit card company that you used to work with?
I mean, I would say it was very similar to what Jake said. we were able to boil down what it took to get from dev to production. And typically we saw about a 30 to 35% productivity gain from our developers. So they were able to get about 30% more story points done in a given sprint than they were before. And we saw our deployment frequency go probably 50, 60% greater after a couple of quarters of DevOps practices and sort of ramping up how to use it. And it was continuing to go up from there.
Wow. We were very prolific this summer doing surveys. So I told you about the Forrester survey that we just did. We also did one with IDC. And there was an interesting result that I found out of that one. It says that they found that 82.2% of organizations are taking steps to prioritize using the same application development tools across all the environments, whether that's distributed or mainframe. So, what do you believe are the potential outcomes if you're prioritizing the alignment of mainframe and distributed tools?
I mean, it could only be good, right? You have those SMEs and experts, those pre-built SMEs that are used to using these tools in this tool set. Yeah. Now what you're doing is you're opening the aperture on the amount of people that can work on things. Now you've taken mainframe code, mainframe changes, and you've made them it's a product of the language. Learning COBOL is just another language that you throw in there. So now by using those same tools, that allows you to re-implement the same processes, which now opens the aperture of people at your company who can make those changes and who can do work.
Interesting. What are your thoughts on those lines?
I fully agree. I mean, COBOL is easy to learn. It's English-like. So I fully believe that all we need to do is just create some excitement around it, just to attract new talent.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for this discussion about modernizing the mainframe developer experience. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Meeting you, Eric, it's like the IT equivalent of meeting Wayne Newton here in Vegas, man. It's just fantastic.
I'm a very exciting person, but thank you very much for joining us for the Modern Mainframe Videocast.